The word of God given unto you is the word that God did not share with man. For in all the ways God spoke, God told man. The word was God, the word was with God, and the word was forever lost to man. And so no man knew what the word for creation is, nor will they ever know. And we give unto you that in giving unto the children the substitute word, you give unto them that which is of the lesser power in the lesser lights that they have acquired on earth. All words that man uses, regardless of whatever tongue he speaks on earth, carry no power, for they are given in the lesser lights of a lesser world. And regardless of whatever any man wishes to think, the words of a lesser light have no power. God showed man that in every way that he was given to speak in tongues, which no man can acquire except it is given, no man can speak it unless it is given to be spoken, that the tongue that is of God is the tongue that giveth words that carry power. And God showed man that everywhere God had given many to speak in tongues, God showed them that there was a tongue that has its own words that carry power beyond whatever the tongue of man on earth can know. In giving unto you the many tongues in which you speak, we have given unto you the many ways in which words carry might and power, so that in all the ways they were called utterances, they were given to do the will of your Creator gods in every way that it is to be done. We have said unto you that in all the ways you prophesy that which is to come in the many lands, you will do so in the tongues of your mother and father God. For no man will know what you have prophesied that will come, for a man cannot know the ways of the tongues of your God that carry the sublime powers of your God in the divine utterances of God. So we give you to speak in every way that you speak in tongues and know what you are given to say, that mankind will not know what it is that you say, nor what it is that will come. That will come. Because the utterances of the Spirit are not given to the flesh. And so we have told everyone, it is never by your might, it is never by your power, it is never by whatever presumption you wish to make. Everything that is done in the greatness and the might and the power of God is done through the Spirit. Every great and mighty way is through the Spirit. When your God had given those who got selected to demonstrate the power of healing, God showed them that they were able to say to everyone, our hands were guided in what we were doing. Our hands are guided in what we are doing. And they knew that it was not done by them, but through them, because it was the way God wanted mankind to know. That the way of the flesh has no power, it is the way of the Spirit. And when man did not know his own spirit, he had no power to resist the things that would come to him that would eventually destroy him. Every man walks in this world, never knowing the way of his own spirit. And because he was not given to know the way of the Spirit, he knew not what it is that he came into this world to do, what purpose he came to serve, how he served that purpose, and how he left. There are many, says your God, who always deceived in the things that they led many to believe, that they carry wisdom in them. And because man on earth does not know that he functions at the very lowest level of life, he does not know that he can never inherit that which is of the sacred and divine knowledge of the world, because he has not received the divinity of his creator gods. And you will teach our children these things. For the children hearken to many who came saying, we know this is what it says. We know the secrets and the codes in the Bible. And God says, what Bible? What Bible? Because little did mankind know that in all the ways that he was under the tutelage of demon gods on earth, that he was always influenced by what they gave to mankind. And man went believing that every book that he saw that was written by man carried wisdom within it. And God could have told mankind, you have no wisdom. For wisdom is the way of the soul, and the soul is the way of the divine light. And when you have not the divinity of God the Father and God the Mother, You possess no soul. And when you possess no soul, you can possess no wisdom. And these things we give you always to teach and to teach and to teach and to teach. Because we promised all our children that in the ending of all things that are to be destroyed, God will show them why they too went astray. And how is it that the whole world went the wrong way? We have always said unto you that in preaching and teaching, you tell the children of God that God can never be mocked, and God's world could never be ruled by an inferior creature. And man is an inferior creature because he has not found the way to the perfection of God, that he may find the way to the divine of God. Everything that man does and continue to do in this world today constitutes every way that God had told man, you went the wrong way, you went the wrong way. And God says, you will tell the children. When you did not wait for God to show you the way in which you must go, in order that you may be able to access that which is divine knowledge, that has become sacred knowledge, you would never have been able to discover the way to the truth. And this whole world is lost in a quagmire of deceit and falsehoods. And every way that God showed mankind that his whole life was a life of misery and woes, conflicts and turmoils and destruction, suffering and pain and death, God showed man the hell that he created for himself on earth. For no man understood what hell is. And every man said, hell is when you leave here and you have gone somewhere else. God said, no, you are living in hell because that is what you created for yourselves here on earth. And God could have told man, everything that is of the unseen is that which works in the heavens of God. For heaven represents the perfect way in which order and balance and harmony is established in the universal divine order of your creator gods. Every man went looking everywhere else for things that God showed man are right in front of you. Everything that you do, God says, reflects the way in which your reality exists from within you and is reflected in the world around you. And mankind has not known why God has given from all the ages that man came, that he leaves monuments, inscriptions, emblems, and symbols to man of the way in which earth became a living hell for mankind. All men saw these things. No man understood these things. Man did not even know that in all the ways he is pitted against himself and every other creature on earth, that he has demonstrated to everyone that he had not the love of the mother and father creator gods, nor did he find the way to the goodness of God in all the world. Everywhere in this world, wherever man dwells on earth, your God has shown man, there was never peace on earth. Because peace represents the perfection of God in the way in which order and balance and harmony is established. And in every way that it is established, the world is tranquil and the world is always working in the pristine divine order of a universal God. All over this earth, God shows man he has created Hebron, which is yet another word for hell, because it is always the way God shows man. He reduces everything to rubble. Man reduces everything to rubble. And in all the ways that he was never able to discover the way to the Spirit, he found the lowly ways of the flesh. He worked in the lowly ways of the flesh. He did the most despicable things before God in the flesh, and he stuck before God in the flesh. You must tell all our children, all this nonsense you're on with, that says this one has this faith and this one has that faith and this one belongs to this religion and this one belongs to that religion and this religion tells you that and that religion tells you this. Because all these nonsense that you all have found here are all the most decadent ways of life, because you can't even see it. It is dividing every single one of you. You don't meet with this one, you don't greet with this one, you don't do this with this one, you don't do this with this one, because your religion tells so. You must tell them. Your religions are always the way God tells you. You fell for the sorcery of demon gods on earth. God didn't give man any of these things. Tell them. Tell them. Your God didn't give you any of these things. Because if God had given you those things, God would never have told you, love one another and do good. Come together and worship God in the oneness of the love of God. So you tell them, all of you, with all this nonsense you all got, and God tells you, son, don't respect anybody. Don't respect anybody. You're a Seventh-day Adventist. You are a Jehovah's Witness. I am a Catholic. I'm a Protestant. I am all this nonsense, God says. Where did you get these things from? Why would God give you all these fragmented things when God had brought you forth whole in the oneness of the divine love of the Mother, Father, Creator gods? These things we give you, son. Teach and preach and teach and preach. Tell them you all turn away from all this nonsense. Turn away from it, abandon it, because God will surely strike you. When God strikes you, God will have no mercy on you, because God told you. If you hear is hard, you can feel. So God tells you, tell them, hard ears fowl does eat hard ears corn. Tell them these things, because God speaks from you. God speaks from you. That in all the ways that God told them, all the old order will pass away. That is what God meant. All this nonsense, all this abomination, all this divisiveness that you have created for yourselves, it is done. God takes it away. Tell them, why does God tell you that the old things will pass away and the things that you do, you will do them no more? Because God knows what God is telling you. All this is an abomination before God. Yeah. All these things have kept the children away from each other, kept them at the throats of each other, kept them divided against each other, kept them in conflict with each other, get them arguing with each other. God said, all these things that God has spoken to them, and tell them, don't you see what you're doing to yourselves? You came as one people from a higher world, with a higher consciousness, a greater sacred knowledge, and powers that were never matched on earth. And look at you today. Look at you today. You walk around this earth with bowed heads, crying out for help from everywhere, from anyone, and never knowing that in all the ways that you would be appealing to beasts, you are appealing to demons. And God showed them everywhere you ask for help, they bring nothing good to you. For whenever they come to help you, they take more than they give to you. You're back to square one. You're back to square one because you don't even recognize that your leaders are compromised by spirits that they cannot see and do not know and cannot control. And then you ask you, why are they behaving like that? You know, we are their people. God says, no, you are not their people because they are not your people. You are not their people because they are not your people. God said, and you will tell them, anyhow, don't understand the notion of spirit possession. You don't understand what God is showing you and why God has told you. You're not warring with any flesh and blood. You're warring with spirit because that which possesses them is not which you think it is. And because they don't know how they have been compromised in the spirit, they don't know how it is they're serving gods that are demonic unto them and to you. Because the demon gods of earth are not your gods. And when they are not your gods, they do not have your interests at heart. And now you understand why it is that God said, everywhere you are, go and put everybody else to rule you, because God said, you don't need anybody else to rule you but God. But you went with your fastness and you're following what other people are doing. God said, we didn't send you to do none of these things here. And now that you running and jumping up and saying, oh, I would vote for this one and I would say, so God said, look at you. You're not voting for God. You're voting for the demon gods of earth, because every tribe here and there that God sent you out to see why they were living in primitive conditions was the way God wanted every one of you to recognize that when God scorned them and God cast them out from the higher worlds and threw them down. If you want to understand now what the word fallen angels mean, it's the way that God tells you, those who came from the high worlds that had practiced so much an abomination that they could no longer remain where they were, and God cast them down to this valley, and God called it the valley of Jehoshaphat, and later Golgotha, the valley of bones. So when you didn't understand how God can speak, and you couldn't know what God meant by what God said, you couldn't have known what it is you were seeing that is around you. So if you believe that your God is supreme, if you believe that God is the only ruler that you can ever have, if you believe that God has the power to uplift you and to remove all these encumbrances from around you, then give up all these things that you're doing now. Turn to God. Speak with God. Ask God's forgiveness for letting God down. And ask God to restore the covenant that you and your ancestors made with God when God brought you here to earth. And God will forgive you, and God will direct you. But you must turn away from every way that you are now going that is an abomination to God. And if you don't, your faith will be sealed with the faith of the tribes of earth. If you do not turn from all these ways and give up all these different forms of abominations that you are committing, your fate will be sealed like that of the tribes of earth. A word to the wise is always good enough to enable the wise to make the right choices. A word to the wise is good enough.